Welcome to Sovereign Rising Podcast, the sacred space for mystic mothers awakening their truth and raising sovereign kids. I'm your host, Emily Miota Lundragan, energy healer, cycle breaker, and devoted mama to a new earth child. Here on Sovereign Rising Podcast, we dive into belief work, chakra wisdom, spiritual parenting, and what it truly means to raise a conscious child in a world that's just waking up. You're not here to do it the old way. You're here to rise. Let's begin. Hello, Sovereign Rising family. I want to start off by telling you that I see you, I honor you, and I thank you for showing up time and time again to do this work. Even when you hit those roadblocks, even when it feels like it's too much, even when you feel lost, and even when you feel like you have traumatized your child, and you're still dedicated to this path. I think one of the greatest things that we can do is to honor ourselves and appreciate ourselves for what we are doing here. Because what is happening here is something that isn't talked about anywhere else. You are raising a sovereign child. You are rising into your sovereignty yourself. And that means that you are challenging everything about your being. And that is huge. And today's topic actually was inspired by a conversation that I had with a friend of mine. I was sharing with her what I'm doing with my daughter and the lengths that I am going to ensure that she grows up sovereign and remains sovereign. And one of the things that she had said back to me was, even the most conscious parent will still instill trauma into their child. And it kind of took me back for a moment. And it brought me to really sit with that question. Can we raise our children without trauma, even as a conscious parent? And as I said that, I just got a huge wave of truth bumps because I know deep within my core, it is possible. It is possible when we choose to clear the trauma in ourselves. Now, I want to break down trauma just for a moment because a lot of us, I know myself included before I really got into this work, had the viewpoint of that trauma was just those really big, intense moments. Like if you hit your child, or if you got into a car accident, or if there was a really traumatic and extreme death. That is what I pictured trauma to be. And there are certain things like a car crash, like a sudden death in the family, that you cannot protect your kids from. However, I also want to talk about a different type of trauma, a trauma that isn't really talked about, is kind of pushed under the rug. And for a lot of older generations, they like to say that there was no control there. And some of them even go as far as saying, again, no matter what you do, you're going to traumatize your kids. And I really have to disagree. So there's the big trauma. So those moments where they're sudden, out of the blue. You're in this world, so chances are, at least I hope, my intention is that you are in no way physically, emotionally, sexually harming your child. However, maybe you have gotten into a car crash and your children were there with you. Maybe there was a death in the family. Maybe you were in an environment, well, say there was an earthquake. That can instill trauma into your child, for sure. There's also a different type of trauma. This is like the little t trauma. This is a trauma that I specifically work on with my clients because this little t trauma comes from you and it comes from your unique blueprint. It comes from your makeup. It comes from the beliefs that you're holding on to. And as I'm saying all of this, I really just want you to take a moment to anchor in, ground yourself, because what I'm going to share here may bring up the feelings of guilt. And again, that's not my intention. If you feel it, you know what? It's actually probably better that you feel it because I know that's not what you want to carry. If you didn't have any guilt, then I'd be a little bit concerned. If you're holding on to guilt, breathe that out because this is just to bring to your awareness the impact that you have on your child, the role that you have in raising your child. Because if you're on this path of sovereign rising, you have to model sovereignty. If you're on this path to raising a sovereign child, you have to know about the implications of your words and your actions and your belief systems. You also have to choose in this moment to let go of that societal belief that even the best parents will still traumatize their children. Because when you are fully aware and conscious, when you are conscious of what is going on within your subconscious mind, so this goes as deep as everything that you say, the way that you say it, to who you say it to, do you know the belief that's behind that? Do you know the programming that you're carrying that's affecting every area of your life, including your child's perception of the world? When you were that conscious, you will be able to know moment to moment how your child is picking up on what you are expressing. Because these little t traumas that I talk about, and it's actually one of the core modules inside Sovereign Child Academy. We expand and dive deeper into the big T and the little t trauma, how to pinpoint them, how to clear it, how to prevent it. This little t trauma, it comes from your own wounds. It comes from your childhood trauma. It comes from you and your belief systems around being seen, around emotional availability, around validation, around love. So let's just break down an example of this. So the other day, and again, this was never done maliciously. I love my mom to death, and she is an amazing grandma to my daughter. But the other day, she was finishing off her book. She has every right to do so. And my daughter was wanting her attention. And my mom kept saying, okay, like, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. And for a moment, I could see through the lens of my daughter. And I saw what she was picking up. I am not important. Now, in those moments, because our kids are in that beautiful theta brainwave state, majority of those first 7 years, little moments like this, if there's a big enough of an emotional reaction, so maybe they're crying, maybe they're really happy, maybe they had some sort of physical sensation with it, that can instill as a program into their body. And depending on what age that they are instilling this and what chakra is being developed at that time, it will become stagnant in that specific energy center. And so just take a moment to just think about your childhood. Were you unconditionally loved? Were you allowed to be seen and heard? Did you feel like you were good enough for your parents? Did you feel you needed to be perfect? Did you feel alone? These are some of the core things that kids need, that when we are not given it in those first 7 years, we pair it with a program or a belief of, I am unlovable, I am not good enough, I am alone. That usually comes from these little tiny moments in our childhood where maybe the adult saw nothing actually wrong with it, but through the kids' eyes, where they're learning their place, they're learning what is right and wrong, they're learning how to survive, they can pick that up as trauma. And this is why your role as a sovereign mom, raising a sovereign kid, is so important. Knowing your belief systems is one of the most important things that you can do, is one of the most potent and powerful things you can do. Because the moment you understand what's happening in your subconscious, what beliefs you picked up from your first 7 years, that's when you get to choose, do I want to pass this on to my child, or do I want to raise them differently? For myself, I was holding on to a lot of beliefs around control, around having to do a lot of things and I couldn't rest, around people pleasing, around feeling like I couldn't use my voice and that I wasn't good enough. And the moment I had my daughter, all that was brought to the forefront. And I was able to see, this is no longer serving me, and I have to do the inner work and I have to reprogram my belief systems, or I'm going to show up in ways that teach my daughter that this is normal, that teach my daughter that not speaking my truth is what allows us to be safe. That the more we do, the more we give, then maybe we'll receive breadcrumbs of something from someone. And I knew that's not how I wanted to raise my daughter. I knew that as a sovereign being, I wanted her to remain in the truth that she was unconditionally loved and supported, that she didn't have to do anything and she could receive everything that she desired, that she has strong, healthy boundaries, that she can say no, and that's a complete sentence. Raising a sovereign child means that they are empowered, they trust themselves, they have emotional regulation. So, knowing your belief systems, knowing what you're passing down to your kids is the number one way for you to ensure that you are stopping the cycle of this trauma, of these generational patterns and stories. Because mainstream parenting methods like control, suppression, sleep training, that is just continuing the cycle. But you were here to do something different, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast episode. You are tasked with creating a space of emotional safety and energetic presence for your children. This is why I created Sovereign Child Academy. This is why this is one of the core focuses. That I'm teaching you how to break the cycles of fear and control to nurture sovereignty in your children. How to identify those small t and big T traumas. How to tune into what belief systems you were holding on to so you have that clear map to be able to break these cycles. Now, I just want to bring forward another really important piece of this. You don't have to be perfect. I'm not asking you to watch every little thing that you say. You might get to that point because you're going to be so aware, but I don't want this to be overwhelming for you. Awareness is everything, but you do not have to be perfect. Because if you are breaking these generational cycles out of fear, control, and unhealed emotional wounds, then you're still passing that energy down to your kids. I want you to be doing this from a place of presence, learning, collectiveness, empowerment, because this is what's going to make the greatest impact for your kids. In those first 7 years, you also have this beautiful time when it's actually so easy to do the repair work for your child because they're in that beautiful theta brainwave state. And I share with you inside of Sovereign Child Foundations, which is a 7-module course dedicated to empowering and remaining or supporting your kids' sovereignty in those first 7 years. And we talk about the different ways you can repair the belief systems that you could be passing down to your kids in those first 7 years around fear, around control, around lack and scarcity. Because when you have that clear blueprint, everything changes. When you have that clear blueprint and you know how to emotionally regulate yourself, you know the importance of repair work, then you can do the repair. And you can reframe those beliefs. And you can break the cycles and witness it in real time. How you showing up differently by doing the inner work changes how your children show up. This is all about the power of presence, attunement, and validation. Another amazing thing is to create an emotional toolkit for your children. One of the things that I share with you inside Sovereign Child Foundations. And this is really the foundational first step for you. If you feel like you have instilled trauma in your child and you want to make sure you're letting go of the guilt around that, you want to make sure that you are showing up differently the next time a similar experience shows up, this is your place. It's 7 core modules on how to anchor in your child, how to allow them in their root chakra to feel safe. That is what stops the cycle of trauma. That is what allows you to raise a child without trauma. Because when you support their root chakra, when you support their safety and show them that they are safe in all areas of their life, then any of those big T traumas that do happen, they have that strong foundation. Feel that. Think about a time where something happened to you that if you didn't do the energetic practices to keep yourself aligned, keep yourself grounded, it would have taken you on a whirlwind. You would have spiraled out of control. I'm teaching you how to do that and to show your child that they are safe. So that way, if trauma does come in, and if any of those big T traumas come in, you know that they are safe. Okay. So I'd love to hear how this episode feels for you. What you learned, your aha moments, your celebrations. Let me know, leave a review, because this is really one of my greatest times is reading the reviews. Knowing how this landed for you, knowing what you want to learn more on of this. As I mentioned, we're doing a whole module of this in Sovereign Child Academy. Your first starting point is Sovereign Child Foundations. There's even the option of doing one-on-one sessions where we can reveal exactly what beliefs you are holding on to and clear them. We bring you back into that beautiful theta brainwave state so you no longer have to live through that programming. I love you. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about awareness, presence, and doing the inner work. Because raising a sovereign child free from these little T traumas is possible. And it's a journey that requires you to heal too. So I love you, I see you, I honor you, I thank you for being here, I thank you for doing this work, for being on this journey. And until next time.